My dear loyal brothers, in relation to an army corps that arrived here without my request and without my knowledge of Russia's continued involvement in the war, Emin told me yesterday that Russia's connection in Caucasia had ceased. Although I cut him off and silenced him, my heart showed earnest interest. Later, while I was performing the salat and its tasbihat, it was ritually said, surely one of the currents fighting and battling in the world will be supportive of Islam, the Qur'an, the Risale-i Nur, and our method. The matter should be looked at from this point of view. It was imparted to my heart that although the reasons for not looking, which I provided in one or two of my letters, are sufficient for the heart and the mind, it is not sufficient for the nafs, which is curious and keen. It was exactly warned to me during the tasbihat that an important reason for this was this: there is a sense of partisanship that is awakened upon looking at these matters, and the partisan view does not see the faults of the party it supports. It accepts its oppression, rather it applauds them. Whereas, in the same way that consenting to kufr, unbelief, is considered kufr, consenting to oppression is considered as oppression. Indeed, with the rights of so many innocent and oppressed being lost and ruined in this terrifying duel, the level of injustice and destruction perpetrated in the world would bring the heavens to tears. The oppressive principle of this cruel civilization, which is that an individual may be sacrificed for the benefits of the community and minor rights can be overlooked for the security of the nation, has opened the way for the emergence of such terrible and unprecedented oppression not even seen in the savagery of ancient times. The pure justice of the Qur'an of miraculous exposition does not sacrifice the right of an individual for the community. From the perspective of heavenly law and pure justice, a right is a right, whether it is small or great does not matter. And it is from this perspective that for people who are engaged with the truths of the Qur'an, like the Risale-i Nur students, to pointlessly look upon these matters without necessity only to serve their keen curiosity and follow things that are beneficial in terms of its results before they have emerged, and to busy themselves by occupying their minds with the activities of those currents that are in favor of Islam and the Qur'an by way of applauding their oppressive distractions, is not appropriate. The second matter, the decisive victory of the Risale-i Nur in Sparta has baffled the atheists. Nevertheless, certain obstinate and stubborn atheists who are as though the wicked spirit of that dead man are thinking of overcoming this defeat. And in complete opposition to the Qur'an and the Prophet ﷺ, but beneath the veil, this atheist guy has used different forms of the same expressions against the Prophet ﷺ and the Qur'an, which the party of Satan uses as part of its method in the discussion on the debate with Satan. As a so-called Muslim, this atheist has cunningly used the points of criticism about the Qur'an and certain states of the Prophet ﷺ raised by the Jews, the obstinate, the disbelieving philosophers, and the atheists of Europe since former times, so that gullible Muslims and those who have not seen the Risale-i Nur can see and hear these criticisms. He has taken such a path and kept his unbelief hidden, and he has surpassed a Satan in wickedness. This deeply saddened me. As our brother Sabri mentioned in his letter, the rotten and absurd tricks devised by the obstinate atheists against the current of the Risale-i Nur are as powerless as a spider's web and nest, and those wicked veils are so insignificant and weak, they will always be torn apart against the Risale-i Nur. In the same way, the printed writings of this obstinate, stubborn atheist, who is the wicked spirit of the man who is dead, which appears to favor Muslims in their Turkishness, but in reality intends to break the grandeur and spiritual dignity of the Qur'an and the Prophet ﷺ and reduce them to nothing and make them inferior will not even amount to being a spider's web and will be shattered before the works of the miraculousness of the Qur'an and the miracles of Ahmed ﷺ. However, it is unfortunate 1,000 times that just as those who have not seen the Risale-i Nur will most certainly be harmed by this, those who have seen it will also pollute their pure hearts by curiously asking, "I wonder what is in it?" It will at the very least cause doubt and suspicion. In response to this, it becomes necessary for the champion students of the Risale-i Nur to act diligently and increase their activities. Since being mentally engaged with negative things is negative, I am cutting the matter short. Beware and avoid making the public curious about it by attaching importance to it. Let it be known that, with the exception of the sacred divine names and the translated meanings of the blessed ayat, it is an insignificant atheistic work that should be completely disregarded and is utter rubbish. Understand with this example just how far this guy has crossed his mark. For example, there are specialists and investigative scholars in an assembly reading and studying a book and taking lessons from a person. If, standing far away, a foolish man wishes to look at the assembly and is unable to see it, his critical judgments counter to those scholars and his criticisms of them will be nothing but crazy nonsense. May Almighty Allah save the people of Iman and the students of the Risale-i Nur from the evils of such people. Ameen. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brothers, following the victory of your exceptional steadfastness and ikhlas, and after it did away with the calamity, the people of the world have changed their front of attack. Through atheistic intrigues, they have secretly begun to target us in this region both physically and spiritually. They are carefully and devilishly trying to break the solidarity of the students, which is their true strength. Although having returned back the Risales to you, they cunningly employ schemes. And although we are one of your branches, they are targeting their intrigue more upon us, since they imagine us to be the base and center. The true protector, Hafız-ı Hakiki, is Almighty Allah. Inshallah, they will cause no harm. Nevertheless, you should assist us with your pure du'as during the blessed days and nights of these holy months. Nothing has happened, but you should be prudent and careful as much as possible. The spiritual assurance of heroes such as Hazret Ali radiallahu anh and Gavs-ı Geylani Kaddesallahi Sirru, and their saying, "Qul wala takhaf" and "wala takhsha," gives us courage and spiritual strength at all times. It says in Katib Osman's letter that the brave brother of champion Rushdu, Burhan, has worked very hard to save the Risales. This brave brother of ours has already performed such services in the past. To him and those who have worked to save the Risale-i Nur and those involved, in fact, to the chairman of the court and its fair members, we offer our prayers and express our appreciation. If it is appropriate, you can express our personal gratitude to the chairman of the court. Bismihi subhanahu wa in min shay'in illa yusabbihu bihamdi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu بعدد عشرات دقائق هذه الشهور الثلاثة. My dear loyal brothers, firstly, we congratulate you for your past Laylatul Miraj and your upcoming Laylatul Barat, and we request your acceptable du'as. Secondly, due to the problem of writing hastily the second half of the miraculousness of the Qur'an, which is the 25th word, unfortunately remained in summary form. Like I have written to you before, to make up for this we included certain addendums at the end of it. We have now realized that the lemmat, glimpse, published 20 years ago is the most important part. It was deemed appropriate to include that among the addendums of the miraculousness of the Qur'an. I saw the copy of lemmat, the glimpse, which the champion Tahiri brought as being extremely valuable. If you have it in that area, you too should include this part to the end of your copies. In any event, the lemmat is itself marvelous. It was written in 20 days during the whole month of Ramadan in the form of prose, suddenly and with no difficulty. We later saw that, like a versified prose, it took on a poetic form which was pleasantly rhythmic. The following piece in it is more wonderful. The title of it in lemmat is A Concise Explanation of the Miraculousness of the Qur'an. One time I saw in a dream that I was at the foot of Mount Ararat. The mountain suddenly exploded, scattering rocks the size of mountains all over the world, shaking it. From here up to the title, there are two types of perspective, one dark, the other luminous. If you have not received a copy of the lemmat, glimpse, we will send that part to you. Thirdly, I will tell you of an incident that is subtle, beautiful, and elegant. The elderly woman in the city and the innocent young woman who, like the elderly woman, have clung onto Risale-i Nur in a self-sacrificing way far more than the men, have used classical gilded threads and valuable pieces from their trousseau to decorate the cover of the Risale-i Nur books, making it appear as though all the Risale covers were glittered with gold. For the spiritual beauty of the Risale-i Nur and for the glittering beautiful writings of Hüsrev and Tahiri and Alis and of our brothers like Hasan Atif and Asim, they too have added another charming adornment over its cover. There are many sisters here that work very hard for the Risale-i Nur, who are the equivalent of Ummuhan and Shahida, which Hafiz Ali has referred to in his letter. Students of the Risale-i Nur such as Asiye, Saniye, Ulviye, Lutfiye, Aliye, for example, pass on their salam and dua to their sisters and brothers there. Bismihi subhanahu wa in min shay'in illa yusabbihu bihamdi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu bi adadi ashirati daqaiki shahr Shaban wa Ramadan. My dear, loyal, blessed, and firm brothers, we congratulate your Laylatul Barat and your upcoming blessed month of Ramadan. All praise be to Allah 100,000 times. The Risale-i Nur is expanding on its own. It is victorious everywhere. The manipulations by the people of misguidance are left incapacitated and remain unsuccessful in slowing it down. In fact, many atheists are surrendering their weapons. As Hafiz Ali mentions, they are very afraid. Instead of their atheistic bigotry, they have now resorted to inciting fear. Inshallah, that fear will turn in favor of the Risale-i Nur. We see that the wonderful and exalted dua made this time in the letter written by custodian of the Nur factory as emanating from his extraordinary ikhlas and loyalty. For this reason, it is on behalf of the Risale-i Nur that we accept his favorable thoughts, which are 1,000 times beyond my due, and say Amin to his dua. We received that letter by the Nur factory together with the letter by Hasan Atif on the evening of Laylatul Barat. We considered it as a fruitful and blessed congratulation for our night. My dear brothers, like the previous Ramadan, I express my sincere request that for this Ramadan too, you offer this powerless and weak brother of yours the spiritual works and efforts relating to the hereafter equivalent to that of its zakat, and that you partly work on his behalf, and that you may assist him in regards to the responsibilities you have burdened him with your excessive favorable thoughts. Through the intoxication of the trouble for livelihood, most people look upon the works of the hereafter at a second level of importance and become prey to people of misguidance who exploit this. Inshallah, the students of the Risale-i Nur will respond to this spiritual sickness too with the principles of the contentment and frugality. We pass on our salam and dua for each of our brothers and sisters. Said Nursi. Bismihi subhanahu wa in min shay'in illa yusabbihu bihamdih. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear, loyal brothers, we congratulate you for your holy Ramadan. For the sacredness of this blessed Ramadan, may the mercy of Almighty Allah assist the community of the noble Prophet ﷺ, who is the mercy to all the worlds. Ameen. May He protect us from disasters and misguidance, which are the signs of divine wrath. Ameen. And may He grant for the students of the Risale-i Nur success in the dissemination of the Nur of the Qur'an. Ameen. We await wholeheartedly the arrival of the Hizbul Azam al-Qur'ani. Secondly, in his letter, Hafiz Ali gives the good news of the arrival of champion Süleyman Rushdie. We too say, welcome many times over, and congratulate him and his innocent ones in three respects. And the lengthy letter Hasan Atef has written to our nomadic brother, who he refers to as Demirci Mehmet, has had an important effect over our brothers with regard to Ikhlas. It gives us great joy that he is trying to implement the mystery and principles of the Risale on Ikhlas. May Almighty Allah increase such sincere brothers in number. Also, to hear the shining connection to the Risale-i Nur had by the valuable one or two exalted elderly from among the champions of the Madrasa Nuriya, which Atef mentions in his letter, has brought us tears of joy. This time, as a supplement to a warning to the youth we previously sent you, we are sending another passage as a warning to the youth in this area who are faced with great risks. This way, it will show in terms of youthfulness just how valuable is the path of chastity, integrity, and following the Sunnah which is taken by the young students of the Risale-i Nur, and that the true and pleasurable life of youth lie in such fortunate youthfulness, and will prove once again who the true young Turks really are. We pass on our salam and dua to all our brothers and sisters, and we request their blessed duas during this holy month of Ramadan and these blessed days and nights which can gain 1,000 rewards for one deed. Al-Baqi hu al-Baqi, your brother Said Nursi. A warning, lesson, and reminder given to a number of helpless youths. This is a supplement to a warning to the youth that was sent previously. One day, a number of bright youths came to me seeking an effective deterrent in order to guard themselves against the dangers arising from life, youth, and the lusts of the nafs. I said to these youths, as I had to those who had previously sought help from the Risale-i Nur, your youth will definitely leave you, and if you do not remain within the bonds of the licit, that youth will be lost, and rather than its pleasures, it will bring you calamities and suffering in this world, in the grave, and in the hereafter. But if, through Islamic training, as a form of thanks for the bounty of your youth, you spent it honorably in uprightness and obedience, it will in effect remain forever spiritually and will be the cause of gaining eternal youth. As for life, if it is without Iman, or because of rebelliousness Iman is ineffective, it will produce pains, sorrows, and grief far exceeding the superficial, fleeting enjoyments it brings. Because, since, contrary to the animals, humans possess a mind and they think, they are inherently connected to both the present time, the past, and the future. They can obtain both pain and pleasure from those times. As for animals, since they do not think, the sorrows arising from the past and the fears and anxieties arising from the future do not spoil their pleasure of the present. Whereas, if a human being falls into misguidance and heedlessness, that minor pleasure of the present is seriously made bitter, and is spoiled by the sorrows arising from the past and the fears and anxieties arising from the future. Especially if the pleasure is illicit, then it is like an altogether poisonous honey. That is to say, from the point of view of the pleasure of life, humans fall to a level 100 times lower than the animals. In fact, life for the people of misguidance and heedlessness, and indeed their existence, rather their world, is the present day they are in. From the point of view of their misguidance, all the time and universes of the past are non-existent, are dead. So their intellects, which connect them to the past and the future, produce darkness, blackness for them. Due to their lack of belief, the future is also non-existent, and the eternal separations resulting from this non-existence continuously produce darkness for their lives through their thoughts. Whereas, if Iman gives life to life, then through the light of Iman, both the past and the future are illuminated and find existence. In respects of Iman, it gives elevated spiritual pleasures and lights of existence for the spirit and heart like the present time. There is an explanation of this truth in the 7th hub in the Risale on Elderly. You may refer to that. Life is thus. If you want the pleasure and enjoyment of life, give life to your life with Iman and adorn it with the farce and preserve it by abstaining from sins. Concerning the fearsome reality of death, which is demonstrated by death every day, everywhere, at all times, I will explain it to you with a comparison in the same way that I told the other youths. For example, a gallows has been erected here in front of your eyes. Beside it is a lottery office, but one which gives tickets for truly huge prizes. The 10 of us here, whether we like it or not, we will be summoned there. There is no other alternative. They will call us, and since the time is circuit, any minute they may say either, "Come and collect the ticket for your execution, mount the gallows," or "A ticket to win a prize of millions of dollars worth of gold has come up for you. Come and collect it." While waiting for them to say this, 2 people suddenly appear at the door. One of them is a scantily dressed woman, beautiful and deceiving. In her hands is some apparently extremely delicious, but in fact poisonous, candy, which she has brought wanting us to eat it. The other is an undeceiving and undeceivable serious person. He enters behind the woman and says, "I have brought you a talisman, a lesson. If you study it, and if you do not eat that candy, you will be saved from the gallows. With this talisman, you will receive your ticket for the matchless prize." Look, you see with your own eyes that those who eat the honey mount those gallows, and until that time suffer dreadful stomach pains from the poison of the candy. And the person who will receive the ticket for the large prize is not apparent. It seems that they too mount the gallows. But there are billions of witnesses who testify that they are not hung, rather they have used it as a step to enter the award stage easily. So look from the windows. The highest officials and the high-ranking persons concerned with this business proclaim with loud voices and give the news that, just as you see with the clear certainty of your own eyes those mounting the gallows, so be certain as daylight, with no doubt or misgiving, that those with the talisman receive the ticket for the prize. In the same way as the comparison, since the dissolute pleasures of youth in the sphere of the illicits, which are like poisonous honey, lose Iman, which is a ticket for an eternal treasury and the passport for everlasting happiness, a person who indulges in them descends to death, which is like the gallows, and to the tribulations of the grave, which is like the door to eternal darkness. And since the appointed hour is unknown, its executioner, not differentiating between young and old, may come at any time to cut off your head. If you give up illicit desires, which are like the poisonous honey, and acquire Iman, and perform the fars, which are the Qur'anic talisman, 124,000 prophets, alayhim salam, together with innumerable people of Velaya, people of investigation, and people of truth, unanimously announce that you will receive the ticket for the treasure of eternal happiness, which is called by the amazing lottery of human destiny. And they point to traces of it. In short, youth will go, and if it goes being squandered, it results in thousands of calamities and pains both in this world and in the next. If you want to understand how the majority of such youths end up in hospitals with imagined diseases arising from misspent youth and prodigality, and in prisons or hostels for the destitute through their excesses, and in bars due to the distress arising from their pain and suffering, then go and ask at the hospitals, prisons, and graveyards. For sure, just as you will hear from most of the hospitals the moans and groans of those ill from dissipation and debauchery resulting from the derives of youth, so will you hear from the prisons the regretful sighs of unhappy youths who are being punished for illicit deeds mostly resulting from the excesses of youth. And you will understand that most of the torments of the grave, that realm of Barzakh, the doors of which continuously open and shut for those who enter it, are the result of misspent youth, as is testified by those who have witnessed the life of the grave, and is affirmed and testified by all the people of reality. Also, ask the elderly and the sick, who form the majority of mankind. Certainly, the great majority of them will say with sorrow and regret, "Alas, we wasted our youth on passion and fancy, perhaps even harmfully. Be careful, do not do as we did." Because, as a consequence of the illicit pleasures of 5 to 10 years of youth, a person suffers years of grief and sorrow in this world, torment and harm in the Barzakh, and the affliction of hell and fire in the hereafter. And although such a person is in a most pitiable situation, in accordance with the mystery of الرَّاضِي بِالضَّرَارِ لَا يُنْذَرُ لَهُ, they in no way deserve pity. For those who freely consent to indulge in harmful actions may not be pitied. They are not deserving of it. May Almighty Allah save us and you from the alluring temptations of this time and preserve us from them. Amin.